How did you guys like that slow roll? Welcome to Talk with Sally. I do apologize about that little delay. For whatever reason, tonight I had to. Whoa, hold on. There we go. Figured it out. I was talking back to myself. Anyway, my my computer decided 15 minutes before going live that it needed to do a Windows update. And I have learned in the past that if I do not do a Windows update, everything seems to run like crap. It's something that they have built in, I believe. Welcome, Sanglot. Welcome, Julian. Just give me 3 seconds. I hope you guys had a wonderful, sunshiny day like I did. It was absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. All right, am I live everywhere? I think I am. Let's see. Hold on just a second. Just sending out a couple more notifications, everybody. While I am multitasking, how about, guys, tomorrow I am doing something a little bit different with my broadcast. Tomorrow night, we're going to do a movie on Twitch. Since I am allowed back on Twitch as of today, I got everything set back up. And now, before everyone jumps to the wrong conclusion, I am not an ethot who does weird things for money. I hang out with fun people because they're amazing and I like them a lot. Okay, so tomorrow there is a thing called, I gotta move this one screen over. So I can look at you and focus 100%, guys. The World Health Organization, and anyone who's been in here and followed me knows that on my Rumble channel, we have covered the 2020 debacle for quite an extensive amount of time. We did read the book from John F. Kennedy Jr., which was a really good book, really great sites in history. And I actually had Dr. Robert Malone. Some people don't think highly of him. I do. I thought he was a great interviewer. Therefore, people can think what they want to think about that. So the World Health Organization has what's called a health treaty coming out. And there are several countries, I think Britain has opted out of it. The Philippines has opted out of it. I can't list all the countries off the top of my head. They will not be part of it. If the United States signs this treaty, we are pretty much giving over our sovereignty to the World Health Organization. They can decide that all of a sudden there is a bird flu and say that we have to wear masks, lock us in our house. There's all kinds of things they can do. So there was a guy named Bill Elmer, and I don't know if people know who he is. I just learned of him in the last probably 6 or 8 weeks. He does great content on X Spaces, and I will give you a link to his X Spaces. So what I'm doing tomorrow, it is 10 a.m. my time, 12 Eastern. What I'm going to be doing, with his permission, I am going to live stream his X Space with me on there. And the reason why I am doing that is to have another avenue for the information to get out there. This information is that important. This is not one of those things where I'm trying to make money. Everything's with his permission, and I'm going to give you links to his accounts so that you guys can follow him. If you want to donate, you can donate to him. It's just a really important thing that he's doing. Friday night, I was going to do the same thing. Unfortunately, I have a viewing. And because it's a mother-in-law who was in remission from cancer for 5 years, and then just really weird the last 2 years since, 2020, it's been battling cancer. It went to her brain, it went to her lungs. I mean, the lady overcame colon cancer, breast cancer, and it was in remission. So anyway, so I've got to attend that. So what I might do is, after the fact, I'm still going to, I won't be live streaming the space, but we'll do a stream and I will play back the space because they're going to do it at 10. So maybe I'll do like a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. Maybe you guys can let me know what you prefer. It's that important that this information gets out. He's got a good panel of very knowledgeable people. I know what it is. I don't know every line detail. The whole topic is how to stop the WHO. So I hope you guys will join me tomorrow at 10 a.m. It's going to be on Rumble. It will not be on YouTube tomorrow, so you'll have to get my Rumble link. You'll have to, if you don't have the app, you guys should be downloading the app. I hate to say that even though I've had 13 videos deleted from Rumble, between Rumble and X, they're still the last bastions of free truth. And to be honest, the videos that I did that got deleted from Rumble are still up on X. So that goes to tell you, for now, that is the platform that we do have the most free speech. So do support people over there. I know a lot of people are like against it. You know what? Get your voice heard. Go interact and meet some people. I've met some really incredible people over there. Okay. With all the housekeeping out of the way, guys, I want to thank you guys all for being here. I am gradually trying to move this stuff up earlier and earlier. It is summertime, and I'm trying to get up earlier and get stuff done around the yard and balance everything. And so I'm trying to make it a goal. Even when I go to Twitch, for those on the East Coast, I'm going to try to do it earlier because I really, really don't want you guys falling asleep during our first movie. The second one's fine. And maybe I've got to find a different platform for that as well because I want to watch fun movies. And it's really kind of difficult when, well, you probably should stream Game of Thrones season 2, episode 1 and 2, because there's some really bad scenes and I knew better. I knew they were going to, I was like, oh no, this is bad. But yeah, I pushed the envelope. Responsible. Didn't try to appeal it because I was in the wrong. I knew the terms of service. My bad. Anyway, guys, everyone, let's welcome everyone who is here on YouTube. I've got Patrick O'Malley on Rumble. I got Sang and Julian over there. I've got Bugman22 is a new person. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Andy Henrik, welcome as well. All right, guys. I think that should give people enough time. Let me just pull up and make sure that I have X working properly. If you guys have an X account, please reshare it. It really has helped me to get more viewership on there. I'm surprisingly, my X viewership for actual views on my videos is more than YouTube and Rumble combined. So that says a lot. That says a lot about the information that is out there and people wanting to watch certain stuff. Okay, it's playing. Let's open it up so I can make sure if someone chats me, I can chat them back. Awesome, guys. All right. So I had a comment one time, guys, that not to look down when I'm reading or not to look one way or the other. I'm sorry. I have one chat for one thing over here. I have another chat over here, and I have another chat down below. So bear with me. Trying to make this fun. Hi, Dozer. Welcome. I try to make, this is history. What we are covering is, I want to pull this up real quick. Hold on. Let me pull up this slide presentation because I kind of want to give you visuals. History can be really boring. However, this history, I will tell you right now, out of any history that we will cover, in my opinion, this is the most important. And I don't say that lightly. If you understand, I hear people talking about the WEF. I hear people talking about the WHO and various different organizations. And I was in a space tonight and I was just like, if you just understood this one thing, you would understand everything. Everything from MK Ultra to Operation Mockingbird to the supposed secret societies that have been doing different things around the world. And the goal is a one world government. And people start getting into aliens and spirits. And yes, I do think that it is. Hi, Aaron. Thank you for being here. And people start getting into aliens and all this type of stuff. With the stuff I've covered in all this time, I believe that it's good versus evil. If I believe in a higher power, I don't care what you guys believe in. However, this content is something that we really, really need to understand. And if you do, like everything that went on in Ukraine, the bombing in Russia, Iran-Contra, what's going on in Brazil right now? I have people privately messaging me right now, telling me they're sending me stuff about Operation Gladio, and I am absolutely thrilled. Hi, Daniel, welcome. I'm thrilled that people are reaching out and sending me these things because it tells me that they're waking up, they're understanding. And I one of my least viewed posts today was if people only understood what the United States has done to El Salvador, and when they come to our country and they do bad things to people here, it's because they're angry and they don't realize that it's not the average citizen that is doing the things to their country. It's our government, and we don't have a say. They're allowing people to go in there, either do a soft coup or a hard coup and overthrow their governments. And if you understand Gladio, you're going to understand everything. With that, I'm going to give you a brief overview for those who may not know what it is. And the book that we are currently covering is a book by, and I'm going to have to make this big, so I'm not going to see the chat for just a minute, everybody, because I'm old and blind. I got smarter later and made sure that I made the writing bigger. But this book, Operation Gladio, was done by Paul L. Williams. And he actually is a Catholic. So when he wrote this book, he was kind of dismayed to learn at the different corruptions involved in that. Also, guys, this is a well-written book. It's very well cited. It's from declassified documents from the government. Also, everything except for one person, which I'm sure he was pretty embedded, I have been able to go back and I have been able to fact check everything through making slides. And to top it off, this book is for free on Audible. If someone did a really good book and it's free on Audible, what does that tell you? He wants the information to get out there. So what is Operation Gladio? Let's see if I can do this in 3 minutes and make it make sense. I'm trying to get better at, because it is so complicated. This is episode 12, and we've covered this book from the very beginning. So if you want all the details, go back and watch episode 1 of Operation Gladio. And I've designed it in a way that you don't have to watch, because I multitask. I weed the garden, whatever. So I've designed it to where everything that I do, you can listen to and understand what's going on. Anyway, so Operation Gladio. For years and years, there's been this group or the secret society that has been, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to put that like this, that have been overthrowing governments. And it goes way, way back to the Russian Revolution, the French Revolution. It goes way back to Jesus Christ being kicked out of, or not Jesus Christ, the crucifixion, can I say my words properly? The crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And then the greed that was going on in the temples, and I'm getting churchy. This is just my opinion, but this is that's a time period of when it started. And a certain group of people got cast out of Jerusalem and were said to roam the earth, and they would never have a land of their own again. Okay, so it goes clear back to those times. Well, they don't have a land of their own. So what have they done? They've infiltrated governments. They've infiltrated different cities and towns. They've done it all. Okay. And how do you infiltrate? You figure out how to get inside, or you do a hard coup, which is assassination, or you do a soft coup, which is kick them out, like Donald Trump and Bolsonaro in Brazil. Those to me are soft coups. And they have done this for years and years and years. So how they accomplish this is what are called left behind soldiers, or Gladio soldiers. And these soldiers in every single country has a different name. I've decided to call them all Gladio soldiers so that when I talk about it, people know what I'm talking about, along with soft coup and hard coup. That way you can get on the computer, find a book, or go to a library and be able to find this information. Okay, So let's take a step back. So in every country, we had this little secret society has Gladio soldiers, left behind soldiers, and they do assassinations, terror attacks, and usually the goal is to overthrow a government and install a desired leader that is going to go along with this little secret society or secret government, or like Colonel Towner says, an international syndicate. That's the best way to describe it without getting blacklisted from every place. So after World War II, so they've always done this illegally. After World War II, they're like, yeah, we're going to get caught one of these days and it's going to be a game changer. So there's a group of people. You have Dulles, you have Dulles, the Dulles brothers, with the funding of the Rothschilds and the Mellon family used it under the OSS. So they were able to fund things under the OSS. Well, after World War II, they wanted to keep these Gladio soldiers going, or these left behind soldiers to go. Well, so one, they wanted the protection of the CIA. Second, they need money to be able to operate this program. I mean, they got to give them weapons, they've got to give them food, training, housing. And so they train these soldiers in how to do terror attacks, assassinations, and infiltrate the opposite party. So when you have Antifa, Black Lives Matter, you have the Proud Boys, and then you had, I don't know what that new one is that wears masks. I don't even want to remember their name. But so think of opposition parties. They infiltrate. So think of Ray Epps. He was never arrested. Okay, so this takes money. So this group of people this is back in 1945-ish, 46-ish. Yes, the Patriot Front. Thank you very much. And welcome, Bucktail, Bob APAC, and 392 to Rumble, guys. Thanks for being here. So they need funding. So this little group, so they create the CIA. But so the CIA is a legit group funded, has government funding. Well, there's still this little group that's going to work outside of that faction. That's why we call them the International Syndicate. It's full of big bankers, big name people, and not just like your local bank where you can get a loan. The big bankers where you have to be a millionaire to get a loan. Okay. So what they do is they recruit the mafia, and the mafia's goal is to bring heroin into New York City. They target the Bronx and they target Harlem intentionally because the people who are in control of this little international syndicate are extremely racist, and they admit it. They hate Black people. So they target these poor Black neighborhoods and they get these people addicted. Okay. With that money, they take it to this, and I say international banking group. So this Sindona, along with Calvi, they set up this huge network of banks. And they launder the money to these different banks. Then they take the money to Washington, D.C., where it is turned into bonds. And then it is brought to the Vatican, where it is turned into, well, this cashed in for money. The Vatican takes 10 to 15%. And with the help of Sindona and Calvi, they've set up different businesses, different NGOs, different banks that they send this money to. And why do they use the Vatican, the IOR? Is because the IOR, you cannot subpoena them. It is the most private, most difficult bank to get information from. They burn records. So next time you see a high-profile official visiting the IOR, think twice about that. Think really, really hard about that. Okay, so once this money goes into these various companies and banks, it is then taken out. Either they have people purchase guns, weapons, or donate money to this non-government agency or that government agency. And just so you know, the UN is part of this. The UN is part of this. A lot of the leaders of the Gladio soldiers in each country are usually the head of the UN in these countries. Not saying all the time, but most of the time. Okay, so they go and they purchase weapons. And with those weapons, they took them to the Golden Triangle or the Golden Crescent. So Golden Triangle is Southeast Asia, and the Golden Crescent is Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. With that, they go and they get heroin in return for those weapons. And when I'm talking weapons, I'm not talking a pistol, I'm not talking a machine gun. I'm talking weapons of mass destruction. Okay, not nuclear bombs. Well, maybe, I don't know. Okay, so then they bring that heroin to the mafia, which was the Italian mob. I don't have any evidence of the Irish mob participating. I only know the Italian connection and the Corsican mafia. Okay, so they bring that to Cuba. So now you can see why we had issues with Cuba. When Cuba decided they were not gonna let us go and, refine heroin through there. So anyway, heroin goes back in, mafia brings it to um, Cuba, and then it goes either into Florida and then up to New York City, into the Bronx and Harlem. Okay, that was step one. Eventually, they overthrow all these governments in Europe. So they're all coup or soft coups, and they have Gladio soldiers and Gladio training facilities in every one of these countries. In South America, they did the exact same thing. However, their focus was setting up the cocaine trade, and their goal was to, instead of bring it to New York, they were going to bring it to California. With the help of making sure that all these operations worked, they created Operation Mockingbird, which was to purchase media to make sure that if found out or were to get their little secret out, they would spin it and blame another country. The biggest person that they blamed was China. Okay, so they blamed China. I don't know what role they played. I haven't dug that far into it yet. However, I do know that they were starting to realize the CIA was bringing drugs into the United States. And when that happened, they made sure that every news organization spun it and blamed it on China. Okay. And the drug problem we had with cocaine and heroin during the 60s and 70s, when they created the hippies, the CIA created hippies. They needed a target group of people to partake in that type of drug. So that is Operation Gladio at a very, very basic level. If I go into all of the detail, and we've listened to the book, and why I've listened to the book, and then we'll pause and we'll summarize each section. And I listen to the book because it's very well written, and that therefore you guys can go and do your own research to make sure you know what is true or not. Okay, it's up to you guys. I am the messenger here. I'm giving you information. I will tell you what I believe, and if I don't have it factually backed up, I'm not going to say it's fact. You guys need to do your own research, and I'm giving you tools to do that. And this information, after being in spaces, I actually left a space twice because I'm like, I can't listen to this. It's all these crazy, and because if they would just if they would just if they would just go and listen to this or follow Colonel Towner. She's so much more further ahead in the research than I am, and she's amazing, and she's kind, and she's very intelligent. You should follow her. She has the Colonel's Corner on Rumble, and I think she live streams to X as well. Every day she does an X space at 12 Eastern every day. So, and she allows you to ask questions. Hello, Macklin. All right. See, you guys are getting smart. Those who've been following me know to come. Let's see, how long did it take me to go through all that? Holy crap, that took me 30 minutes. I'm gonna have to really figure out how to make that shorter. And maybe I'm gonna record that instead of me telling you it every time. I'm just gonna replay that because that one was pretty good. Does anybody have questions based off of that? That's at a very basic level. If you do that and you start researching people, and if you understand that every government that's had any kind of a coup, whether it be through assassination or through voter fraud, right? Then you will understand everything going on in the world. There's been 70 to 75 of them since the 1940s. And they're all documented. This is from declassified CIA documents, guys. All right. With that, we are going to go ahead and pull this book up and add it to the stage. I think we know most of the characters that are going to be in here tonight. There is only a couple of new ones. However, when I first start this, I do have an earbud in my ear, and I should have used the ladies' room, but I can hear what's going on. It'll take me 30 seconds. So I'm going to push play. Well, first we're going to do a sound check and make sure you can hear everything. So for 10 seconds, I'm going to play, and then there's a delay.
Nothing to do with preserving a country's integrity. It's just business. And third world countries see their destiny as defeating borders and expanding. The more of this mentality we can provide, the greater our wealth. We train and we arm. That's our job. And in return, we get a product far more valuable than money for a gun. We're paid with product, and we credit top value for product. Drugs. Look, one gun and 3,000 rounds of ammo is $1,200. A kilo of product in Nicaragua is about $1,000. We credit the Contras $1,500 for every kilo. That's top dollar for a kilo of cocaine. It's equivalent to the American Kmart special. Buy 4, get 1 free. On our side, we spend $1,200 for a kilo and sell it for $12,000 to $15,000. Now that's a profit incentive. It's just good business sense. Understand? Michael Harari to Gene Chip Tatum, CIA helicopter pilot, 1985. 6 months before the attempted assassination of John Paul II, Italian Judge Carlo Palermo launched an investigation into the smuggling of heroin within northern Italy. After arresting and interrogating local drug king Herbert Oberhofer and members of his gang, Palermo became aware that the heroin was arriving in police cars that were provided by Kara Mehmet Ali, an agent of the Turkish mafia. The leading importer of the smack was Karl Koffler, a key figure in a kidnapping ring. Palermo's team of detectives tailed Koffler to Sicily, where Koffler met with Gerlando Albertini, a member of the Sicilian mafia. Albertini operated a laboratory that produced 100 kilograms of choice brown number 4 heroin a week. He was in league with Stefano Bontade, who had helped to arrange the fake kidnapping of Michele Sindona. In January 1981, Koffler was taken into custody and began to provide details about the Balkan route, the Babas, the Sicilian Men of Honor, and Stibam International, which had become the hub of the drug trade. He said that Hussein Thiel, one of the leading Babas, was responsible for transporting the heroin to the United States on ships owned by Bekir Çelenk. He spoke of the arms from the NATO bases that were being supplied in exchange for the drugs. The weapons, Koffler testified, included tanks, helicopter gunships, aircraft, and 3 freighters. On March 7, 1981, Koffler was found murdered in his cell within a prison in Trento. He had been placed in solitary confinement and was under 24-hour surveillance. Koffler's throat had been slit and his heart pierced by a very fine needle. No one was ever charged with the crime. The raid on Stibam. But the damage had been done. Palermo and his investigators now turned their attention.
Okay, so this first little chapter is only 15 minutes long, so that means it's going to be a summary of things. He's kind of done this with this book, where he's gone back and forth through time periods and different people. So this is not going to be the juicy stuff, but we're going to get through this first chapter. I'm only going to pause after each section, but it's quite amazing how everyone ends up with a slit throat or a needle or an accidental hanging or I call it killery style.
Attention to Stibam and the day-to-day activities of Henri Arsan. They began to receive reports from Urmumku that served to confirm their suspicions. The Stibam pipeline flowed from Bulgaria to Sicily, and it remained protected by some very powerful individuals, including SISMI and NATO officials. By keeping Stibam under his watchful eye throughout 1981, Palermo could verify that the seemingly innocuous shipping company had shipped more than 4,000 kilos of pure heroin to markets throughout Europe and the United States. The net worth of these shipments was $400 billion. Making inquiries to the CIA, Palermo was told that Arsan should not be taken into custody since he worked undercover for the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. The magistrate opted to ignore this disinformation and ordered a raid on Stiebaum's headquarters in Milan on November 23, 1982. The raid resulted in the arrest of Arsan and 200 of his leading accomplices in arms trafficking. Glauco Partel, the director of a research center in Rome and an agent of the U.S. National Security Agency, worked with P2 in providing Exocet missiles to the Argentine government during the Falklands War. Even more alarming was the finding that Partel was involved in the sale of 3 atomic bombs to an unnamed Arab country. Colonel Massimo Pugliese, a former SID official, negotiated the sale of weapons to the Middle East with SISMI head Santo Vito. A prominent P2 member, the colonel worked with the CIA in developing and selling a secret superweapon called the Death Ray. Stiebaum records showed that Pugliese kept in close contact with the Reagan administration through actor Rossano Brazzi. Enzo Giovanelli, a key supplier of ammunition and goods to the U.S. base of La Maddalena in Sardinia, had sold aircraft, freighters, and flight simulators, with the assistance of NATO officials, to Libya and other Arab nations. He worked in partnership with 2 fellow members of P2, Flavio Carboni and Francesco Pazienza. Angelo De Feo, a black market arms dealer, had been involved in the sale of Leopard tanks and a fleet of ships to Libya, along with missiles to Mauritania. The missiles, he testified, were delivered on CIA cargo planes that departed from the Ciampiro military base. De Feo further said that all of Stiebaum's trafficking in arms was controlled by SISMI. The pizza connection. Palermo was just getting started with...
I'm not going to lie. When I heard the pizza connection, I wasn't going to actual pizza connection. I went to something completely different. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about.
The probe. Leading Sicilian mafiosi were also colored, including Giuseppe Albertini, brother of Gerlando, Mario Capiello, and Edmondo Pagnoni. The 3 men of honor were involved with the drug smuggling side of Stiebaum's operations. With the arrests, Palermo learned that Arsan had imported 20 kilos of morphine base every month for processing by the Sicilians in their laboratories. The refined heroin, Palermo realized, was being shipped to Miami, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, and other U.S. ports of call, where it was combined with other drug deliveries to create the Gambino crime family's pizza connection. Palermo further discovered that a great deal of the arms had been sent by Stiebaum to Scandaron.
Maybe it is the pizza connection and he just has not figured it out yet. Or maybe he's talking around it. I don't know. It's
a
possible,
small Syrian enclave that was occupied by Turkey. Jailhouse death. Based on the testimony of the suspects in custody, Palermo issued an arrest warrant for General Santovito, the head of SISMI. Santovito was not only the key figure in protecting the Stiebaum pipeline, but also a principal player in the strategy of tension and the attempted murder of the Pope. At the direction of Licio Gelli and his CIA overlords, the SISMI general had planted false leads in the Bologna bombing case and had washed away vital evidence from St. Peter's Square on the day of the shooting. Santovito appeared in court, posted bail, and fled to the United States. Coaxed by the CIA to return and face charges, the general returned to Italy, no doubt believing that no harm could befall him since he was a steadfast military official who had devoted his life to the fight against communism. Santovito was placed in a holding cell, where he was found dead under mysterious circumstances. He had dropped dead immediately before his scheduled interrogation by Italian detectives. No autopsy was conducted. In 1983, the same strange jailhouse fate befell Henri Arsan. The Stiebaum executive was discovered on the floor of his cell in the prison of San Vittore. His eyes were bulging from their sockets, his lips bright purple, and his skin was an ashen shade of gray. No autopsy was conducted. His jailers merely announced that he had died of a heart attack. Scare tactics. After the mysterious deaths of Arsan and Santo Vito,
Baba APAC is asking if there is an Italian connection, and I would have to say yes, most definitely. All of this has an Italian connection, and most of the reason why is trying to make sure that they protect the Vatican, which is the IOR. That's where they are able to launder their money. The last thing that these guys wanted to have happen is have Italy turn communist. When they originally were setting up these Gladio soldiers in every country, everything was in the name of communism until 1991-92, when the Cold War officially ended. One thing to think about is, who do you think created communism to begin with? That's something to really think about, and you're going to have to reflect on that and see if there's a connection. I believe there is. The Bolsheviks were not, from what I understand from reading history and listening to different people, were not the real Russians. And they were the ones that were cast out from Russia because of the destruction that they were doing to that country. And they were sent to Germany. Okay, if you think about that connection, and I, because I am on YouTube, have to choose my words wisely, therefore I won't say them out loud. Those who know what I'm saying, and if you'd like, we can go into that deeper another time on Rumble and X alone. Anyway, yes, Rome never, did it fall? Yeah, it was taken over, kind of like what every country is happening right now. And it's a very slow, calculated plan. The end goal is a new world government. And I want you guys to just think about this also, they're not just talking about drugs and guns. Think of every single way that a person makes money. Do you realize that they make more money off of child trafficking than they do, or human trafficking, than they do off of drugs? Why? Because you can reuse someone more than once. Drugs, you get to use them one time, which I don't like to talk about too much because it makes me sad, but that is the reality of it. So this isn't just weapons and drugs, it's all of it. Think of all the ways that they can make money. And having an open border allows this to function. Hi, according to Woz, having open borders is what allows this international syndicate to operate efficiently and effectively. This is why they want to have wide open borders. Yeah, Bolsheviks are fine citizens, P digits. You guys are making me laugh. Okay, let's continue on. I just wanted to clarify that. So those are my opinions based off of my reading of history. Do your own research, everyone, and come to your own conclusions, please.
Palermo relocated to Sicily in order to continue his probe into the relationship of the Sicilian mafia to the Arms for Drugs network. Shortly after opening his office within the House of Justice in Trapani, a car loaded with TNT exploded along the side of the highway through Pizzolungo. It was set to detonate just as the judge passed by, traveling from his house in Bonaggia to Trapani in an armored Fiat 132. The explosion toppled the car, severely injuring Palermo and several of his bodyguards. The blast also blew apart a Volkswagen Sirocco, killing Barbara Rizzo Asta, 30, and her twin sons. In the wake of this incident, Palermo resigned from the judiciary. Despite his retirement, Palermo continued to pore over the confiscated documents from Stibam, looking for missing clues that might explain the creation of the shipping company that specialized in arms and drugs, and the mysterious deaths of those who could provide telling details about its operation. He noticed that the initials TGS, signifying a major figure in the arms and drugs network, kept appearing again and again. Years later, the judge finally realized that the reoccurring initials stood for Theodore G. Shackley, the former deputy director of the CIA, who had been in charge of all covert operations. New undertakings. After the raid on Stibam, the CIA created new shipping companies to perpetuate the drugs for arms trade. Alivane and Alivane International were set up in Scotland and Israel by Terence Charles Byrne, an American arms dealer, at the request of CIA Director William Casey. One of the first shipments from these firms was made to the Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran as part of the October surprise promise. The shipment contained long-range artillery as well as electronics that the mullah used in his war against Iraq. Another shipment contained 3 large flasks of radioactive cesium, which were sent to Denmark, and from there exported to Portugal and onward, via Cyprus and Israel to Iran. Within 3 years of the raid, 120 additional shipping operations had been set up in coastal cities throughout Europe. In addition to the refineries in Sicily, hundreds of heroin kitchens were set up throughout Turkey, including Bakhale, half an hour from the border with Iraq. New routes were opened throughout the Balkans, along with hotels, restaurants, and brothels to accommodate the smugglers. Rural hovels such as Licha, Van, and Gaziantep gave rise to smugglers' nests and sudden prosperity. Heroin had become a 400 billion.
I don't normally pause right in the middle of something. Okay. When did Trump tell us that we are moving our soldiers out of Afghanistan? We've been there since 2002, I believe, 2003. You know the time frame. Think about this. When did fentanyl start becoming a thing in the United States? The Golden Crescent was a place where they could grow heroin and actually liquid morphine. So you cut off that supply and it's now manufactured into fentanyl. And then all of a sudden we have this influx of fentanyl into the United States. Yes, but when did Trump announce it was going to happen? Because he was saying that he was going to pull out for 4 years. I'm going to look into this. I don't know the answer to this. This is a question that just popped into my mind. And that's the beauty of listening to something 3 times, because I've listened to this 3 times today, just to make sure I could have everything make connections. About the time that Trump said that he was going to start pulling troops out of Afghanistan, they no longer needed the Golden Crescent as a source of growing poppy. Think about that.
$1 billion business with 200 million users throughout the world. The CIA's share of this business was used to finance the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, the guerrilla forces in Angola, the Contras in Nicaragua, the puppet regimes in South America, and the death squads in El Salvador. Paul E. Hallowell's brainstorm had produced an intelligence agency with seemingly limitless funds for seemingly endless operations. Drug boom. The Golden Triangle was now producing 80% of the world's opium supply. At the end of 1982, the DEA had evidence of over 40 heroin syndicates.
Okay, I'm pushing pause because remember, they stopped using the Golden Triangle about 78, 79 because of drought, and Thailand, Burma, and Laos was not allowing people to sell and traffic drugs anymore. I think they were kind of figuring out what was going on. So that's when they had like this little dry spell where they were setting everything up in South America. And so they were selling they were growing heroin and setting up the cocaine trade in South America at this time and recruiting the cartel. Why do we have a cartel problem? Well, it should be pretty simple, but I just want you guys to keep that in mind. This book jumps time, and I like time frames because it helps me understand the globe on a global scale versus each area as separate. Because this is not a country by country thing. This is a global intent to take over by a certain group of people who we call the International Syndicate.
Syndicates and 200 heroin laboratories operating in Pakistan. The CIA deposited a large share of its profits from these operations in the Shakarchi Trading Company in Lebanon, which served not only as a convenient laundry, but also as a shipping firm that delivered 8.5-ton shipments of choice brown product to the Gambino crime syndicate in New York. In keeping with the policy of false flags, the sharp rise in heroin production was blamed on the Soviet generals in Kabul. The regime maintains an absolute indifference to any measures to control poppy, Edwin Meese, President Reagan's Attorney General, said during a visit to Islamabad. We strongly believe that there is actually encouragement, at least tactically, over growing poppy. The increased flow of heroin impacted all regions of the world, including Pakistan. Before the CIA program, there were fewer than 5,000 heroin users in Pakistan. At the end of the Soviet-Afghanistan War, there were 1.6 million heroin addicts.
Wow.
Arkansas Narco Bank.
Okay, so notice how, just notice everything about Gladio is understanding and recognizing patterns. Recognize that they're always blaming Russia and they're always blaming China. People forget that Russia actually helped us to end World War II. The United States, along with Great Britain and what was the other country off the top of my head? Oh my gosh, I can't remember the country. But this alliance that was supposed to take place, they went behind Russia's back and they separated all the land and gave it to different people. And after the Cold War ended, and when JFK was making peace with Russia, this group of people were not happy with that because they needed someone to blame for everything that was going on in the world. If they can't blame every coup, every Gladio operation on Russia or China or communism, then everything falls apart. They always have to have a boogeyman. After the Cold War ended, it became the War on Terror.
But the principal laundry for the new heroin network remained the BCCI, which continued to retain its primary offices in London and Karachi. James R. Bath, a CIA associate and the business partner of George W. Bush, remained a primary director. Bert Lance, an American businessman who served as the director of the Office of Management and Budget under President Carter, emerged in 1981 as a key BCCI consultant, along with Arkansas-based power broker Jackson Stevens. In accordance with the wishes of William Casey, the CIA director under President Reagan, the BCCI stood alone, financially independent, and free from congressional scrutiny. Thanks to Lance and Stevens, western Arkansas suddenly became a hub of international drug smuggling. Cocaine was being smuggled into the small airport in Mena by CIA assets, including pilot Barry Seal. These assets also transported to Mena huge bales of cash, which was laundered by BCCI's First American Bank. First American was a Washington, D.C. financial institution that had been acquired for BCCI by former Secretary of Defense.
Okay, once again, I've got to pause. Who was the governor or potential governor of Arkansas? This is where I'm testing your intelligence. I'm pretty sure most of you guys are going to get this one correctly.
Clark M. Clifford. The cash came from the Gambino crime family, which was shelling out $50 million for each shipment. Blocked by national security. The laundering at First American was conducted in conjunction with Worthern Bank, a financial institution owned by Jackson Stevens, and the Arkansas Development Finance Authority, a state agency that had been set up by Governor Bill Clinton. Stevens had been a major donor to Clinton's 1982 gubernatorial campaign, and Worthern had provided the candidate with a $3.5 million line of credit.
Now, do you guys understand how... So supposedly, allegedly, Barack Obama had an issue with cocaine, according to his, what is that guy's name? Is it Terry? What is his last name? Anyway, whoever Tucker Carlson interviewed. said he had a drug problem. It's been allegedly said that Bill Clinton has a cocaine drug problem. And it's allegedly said that Bill Clinton knew about planes coming in and out of Arkansas through the Tyson food industry. So think of all these companies who set up industries, whether it be these big, huge industries where they're shipping things in and out either by plane or by sea.
The BCCI's front in the D.C. bank was Kamal Adam, who, according to the Kerry Committee report, operated as the CIA's principal liaison for the entire Middle East from the mid-1960s through 1979. In his attempt to probe First American, CBS correspondent Bill Plant complained that there was a trail of tens of millions of dollars in cocaine profits from Mena, Arkansas, and we don't know where it leads. It is a
Really?
trail blocked by the National Security Council. Holy See Secrets. By 1985, BCCI had become an international $23 billion operation. Through it, the CIA had shelled out more than $83 million to Lucio Gelli for Operation Gladio and the October Surprise. From it, the agency provided infusions of discretionary cash to the Vatican shell companies, including Aaron S.A. Strange to say, some of this money ended up in the coffers of the Irish Republican Army, IRA. Mysteries surrounding BCCI began to abound.
Someone asked me about the IRA earlier today. I'm trying to figure out. So I think I was in high school because I'm dating myself now. I remember the IRA and it being an issue. Now I'm going to have to rewatch the Tom Cruise movie.
Millions of dollars in cash transfers arrived each day from the various branches of this notorious bank, flowing into Manlon, a firm with offices in London, Bombay, and Luxembourg about which scant information exists. Additional funds came from Banco Ambrosiano and the Atlanta branch of Banca Nazionale del Lavoro.
Okay, remember the Ambrosiano Bank, sorry. If I read the word, I can say it. I'm going off the top of my head. Remember, that's the bank that was the Vatican Bank or the church bank. You had to be a high-standing person in the church to qualify for a loan. And Gelli, along with another guy, figured out how they were going to skim money or how to skim money off of this bank, how they were going to embezzle money, how they were going to at the time, you could only own 5% of this bank. And they figured out how to set up shell companies in order to get more shares and to do more nefarious things.
Manlon's corporate purpose, according to documents filed with England's Companies House, was to act as confirming agents in the sale of goods of all kinds. The existing records of this shadowy organization show that it was used to post large financial credits to the IOR and an association of Catholic priests in Chicago, the hometown of Archbishop Marcinkus. Special delivery. Arthur Hartman, another director of BCCI, was an old hat in the spy game, having worked for decades with British and Saudi intelligence. Hartman also served as the president of the Rothschild Bank in Zurich. In June 1982, Hartman's bank in Zurich received a morning delivery from BCCI, a suitcase stuffed with $21 million in cash. The money was to be used for the murder of Roberto Calvi. Chapter 18.
So Roberto Calvi was the one who went and set up all the shell companies. And I should have done just a little bit of slide making, but if I remember correctly, Calvi was the one at Ambrosio Bank. I'm pretty sure. I bet I have a slide on that. I'm going to go look it up while we play the next section.
Blackfriars Bridge. The priests will be the end of us. They believe in any case that if someone dies, their soul lives on, so it's not a bad thing. Roberto Calvi to his daughter Anna, April 1982. Quoted in Rupert Cornwell's God's Banker. The decision to kill Calvi was not taken lightly. The CIA had tried to resolve the Ambrosiano affair by providing Francesco Pazienza as the banker's new international consultant. The move displayed the agency's determination to resolve the Ambrosiano imbroglio. Few individuals were of more vital importance to Gladio than Pazienza, and no one was more wired to the operation's power brokers. A trained physician, Pazienza had abandoned his medical profession to serve Operation Gladio. He was dispatched to serve SISMI General Santovito by former NATO commander and Secretary of State Alexander Haig, and former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. A leading member of P2, he met regularly with Licio Gelli and was later named as a co-conspirator in the Bologna bombing. Since 1978, he had worked closely with Henri Arsan at Stibam, arranging the sale of a fleet of warships to Saddam Hussein in Iraq. Pazienza was also a man of honor, with filial ties to Pippo Callo and Salvatore Inzerillo, and by extension to the Gambino family in the United States. Thanks to his friendship with Michael Ledeen, Pazienza became deeply involved in U.S. political affairs, including the implementation of Billygate, a plot connecting President Carter's brother with the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, a group that sought the destruction of Israel. President Reagan was duly impressed with Pazienza's talents. In the diplomatic interregnum created by Reagan's removal of Richard Gardner as the U.S. ambassador to Italy, Pazienza and Ledeen received the federal fiat to handle relations between the U.S. and Italian governments. In March 1981, Pazienza began to devise a plan to plug the gaping $1.75 billion hole within Banco Ambrosiano that had been created by loans to the Vatican's shell companies. Through his CIA contacts, he arranged for 2 American investors, presumably David Rockefeller and Robert Armau, 3 Saudi businessmen, and 2 banks, to pay $1.2 billion for the 9 shell companies that now held nearly 16% of Ambrosiano's stock. Calvi Cage.
Okay, let's talk about Kissinger for just a minute. All through all my history books, everything I ever learned about Kissinger, I was like, oh, he died. That's really sad. And someone's like, do you know what he did? So I started doing research, and the things that he was highly involved in Operation Mongoose, which took part in Vietnam, and the things that they did were horrific. They would go, if they to try to find people or to implicate people, they would go to people's houses. They would torture them, and eventually the people they tortured would acquiesce. Okay, why can't I say words? Acquiesce. And so what they would do is they would take these people, they would put a bag over their head, cut out holes, and parade them through town, and then they would bring them back home after they had finger pointed who they were looking for. And then later, these Gladio soldiers, who Felix Rodriguez was a part of, would go and knock on these people's doors that were fingered, whether they were the right person or not, go knock on their door and say, adios, mother effer. And that was the end of them. They were gone. Kissinger is responsible for millions of people being gone from this earth. And when I found that out and I started watching documentaries on him, I was like, the things that I didn't learn in history. And I was already going down this World War II path and the history and trying to make everything make sense that's going on today. And the goal of learning everything that we're doing is to notice the patterns, to realize what they're doing right now in the present time. And it's awful what they're doing. And everything we do is to bring it back to that. Okay, I get them. When I think about people being taken out for the wrong reasons, I just get sad. And I'm not going to get sad because we're learning history and we're not going to let this happen again. Millions of people And the saddest part is he never, ever paid for his crimes. He died, well, I guess he was in a wheelchair and looked like a vegetable, but he never paid for what he did to people. And it was all in advancing the international syndicate to help advance the New World Order, to go into these countries, do a hard coup or a soft coup, overthrow their government so that these imperialists could go into their countries, take their resources, pretty much impoverish the people that lived there, pay them pennies on the dollar for their work, and then bring it back and enrich the elite. The elite, not the people of the countries who did this. The elite, the select few people who benefit from these crimes. And then when you hear about these people who have had their country turned upside down, and they come to the United States because they need a place to live because their country's a shithole, they come here and they hate Americans because they associate us with these imperialists and this international syndicate. They're angry. They will do anything to get revenge on us. And I think it's sad. And I'm not on the side of these awful people coming here and doing these things, because I'm not. I love America. However, we do need to understand why they're doing it. And why they're doing it is because of these people that go in, and it's all about resources. How can this international syndicate, how can these elite people make money? They find the resources, and they don't allow the country that it belongs to help make their society and their country prosper. Okay, continuing on. My rant is over.
7 days after John Paul II was shot, Calvi was arrested for the illegal transfer of funds out of the country and locked up in Lodi prison, 20 minutes south of Milan. As soon as this happened, Calvi's family contacted Archbishop Marcinkus to seek his help in springing the banker from his cell. Marcinkus responded to their pleas by saying, "If the IOR accepts any responsibility, it will not only be the Vatican's image that will suffer, you will lose as well, for our problems are your problems too." Prison was the worst experience of Calvi's life. Painfully introverted, he was obsessive in his behavior and fastidious in his personal care. His cellmates passed their time playing cards and listening to rock and roll on the radio. Calvi could neither sleep nor use the toilet in full view of the others. A visitor found him bloated and completely submissive, meekly obeying the taunting prison guards.
I think what they meant to say was constipated.
And at the brink of physical and mental exhaustion. On July 3rd, when questioned by Milanese magistrates, Calvi broke into tears. "I am just the lowest of the low," he sobbed. "I am just a dog who serves others." The magistrates asked, "Then who commands you? Who is the proprietary?"
You can never tell who commands you. That's a death sentence all in its own.
Of the bank. Collecting himself, Calvi said, "I can't tell you any more." On July 7th, when the Italian government charged Sindona with the murder of Giorgio Ambrosoli, Calvi swallowed a quantity of barbiturates and slashed his wrist. Coming to consciousness in the prison infirmary, he said that he had acted in a moment of lucid depression. On July 29th, Calvi was sentenced to 4 years' imprisonment and a fine of 16 billion lire. His lawyer filed an appeal, and he was freed on bail. Within a week, he returned to his position as Ambrosiano's chairman. A letter of patronage. Calvi was becoming increasingly desperate. The shareholders kept insisting on some proof that the 8 shell companies that had been established in Panama were properties of the Holy See. By August 1st, Calvi had no choice save to appear before Archbishop Marcinkus with hat in hand. The affair was about to explode unless he could present some assurance to the Guardia di Finanza that the 8 companies, which had drained Banco Ambrosiano of all its cash reserves, were in fact legitimate Vatican concerns. Marcinkus realized that some action had to be taken to ward off financial disaster, and he came up with a course of action that represented one of the greatest acts of fraud in ecclesiastical history. He issued a letter of patronage, stating that the dummy firms were legitimate financial organizations whose purposes and financial obligations were known, secured, and approved by Holy Mother Church. The letter, dated September 1st, 1981, was written on Vatican letterhead. It read as follows: Gentlemen, this is to confirm that we directly or indirectly control the following entities: Manic S.A., Luxembourg; Astral Fine S.A., Panama; Nord Europe Establishment, Liechtenstein; United Trading Corporation, Panama; Erin S.A., Panama; Bellatrix S.A., Panama; Belrose S.A., Panama; Starfield S.A., Panama. We also confirm our awareness of their indebtedness toward yourselves as of June 10, 1981, as per the attached statement of accounts. The attached accounts showed indebtedness to the Lima branch of Banco Ambrosiano alone for $907 million. The letter was signed by Archbishop Marcinkus, along with his administrative assistants Luigi Menini and Pellegrino de Strobo. To compound the fraud, Calvi presented Marcinkus with a letter of his own, this one stating that the Vatican Bank would entail no liabilities or suffer no future damage or loss from its involvement with the 8 companies. Papal Pipe Dream. For several months, the letter served to quiet the concerns of the Ambrosiano shareholders, while Pazienza gained the necessary backing for his plan. The bailout of $1.2 billion was in place, with the group agreeing to accept the 16% of Ambrosiano stock held by the shell companies as equity. The investors intended to purchase more shares at an inflated rate from interested sellers in order to obtain a 20% holding. This would grant them ownership of one of Italy's most prestigious banks. The matter seemed settled. Calvi uttered a sigh of relief. No one expected John Paul II's reaction. The Pope opposed the plan, according to Pazienza, for the sake of a pipe dream.
Remember that we covered the attempted assassination of the Pope last episode? So if you haven't watched that, do catch up on that. I do have them in a thread. They're all on Rumble and they are all on X. I do have them listed in order. However, 7 and 7 have 2 of them because I got it wrong. So I have a 7 that is just 7, and then I have a 7 part 2. Anyway, so we kind of went back in time just a little bit. I just wanted you guys to remember that. So the attempted assassination on the Pope has not taken place yet.
In a 1986 interview with the news magazine L'Espresso, Pazienza explained, the Ambrosiano, in the Pope's eyes, was to represent the modern secular arm of the Church in the world. The new temporal power was seen as the penetration and control of financial and publishing activities, including the acquisition of Corriere della Sera, Italy's leading daily newspaper, to counterbalance the secular and Marxist influences that were becoming ever more preponderant in Italy. The Pope's belief that the Church could weather the crisis and take ownership of Ambrosiano was reflected by optimistic statements from Archbishop Marcinkus. In March 1982, as the storm clouds gathered around the Holy See, the Archbishop, in an interview with the Italian magazine Panorama, said, Calvi merits our trust. I have no reason to doubt. We have no intention of ceding the Banco Ambrosiano shares in our possession. Botched job.
It kind of seems like Bishop Marcinkus is starting to turn on some of these people. And I'm not quite certain. I don't know if it has to do with the CIA or if it has more to do with greed and money. I'm not that far ahead yet. The reason why I don't go further ahead than you guys is I don't want to do spoilers. However, I do listen to things 2 and 3 times a day before I present, just to make sure that I know, at least I have the information correct. That's my goal.
While Marcinkus was making this pronouncement of trust, Robert Rossoni, the general manager of Ambrosiano, was making a new demand for Calvi's dismissal as director and for a call on all loans that had been made to the Vatican. Rossoni was causing unnecessary agitation. Pazienza responded to the demands of the troublesome Ciacerone, chatterbox, by contacting Flavio Carboni, who was connected to Banda della Magliana. Carboni issued the contract. On April 27th, Rossoni was shot by an assailant with a pistol as he left his apartment for work. Several Milanese police officers heard the shots and killed the gunman. The hit had been entirely botched. Rossoni managed to survive the attack, and the gunman turned out to be no ordinary Magliana street thug, but Danilo Abruzzati, the leader of the notorious gang. Why would Abruzzati attempt to conduct such a hit by himself? The Magliana boss had dozens of cugines, lackeys, at his beck and call. He had amassed hundreds of millions from the gang's involvement in robbery, kidnapping, prostitution, gambling, and drug trafficking. Why would a criminal of his stature accept a contract for the killing of a man of no obvious significance? Such questions were raised by journalists throughout Italy, and Banco Ambrosiano came under increased scrutiny. On May 31, 1982, the Bank of Italy wrote to Calvi and his board of directors in Milan, requesting a full accounting of the lending to the Vatican's 8 shell companies. The board, under increased pressure...
Okay, I'm pausing. So the attempted assassination on the Pope was in 1981. They're fast-forwarding to 1982.
Voted 11-3 to comply, despite Calvi's protests. A papal petition. Knowing the shell game had been lost, Calvi turned to the Holy Father with a last request for deliverance. In a letter dated June 5, 1982, he wrote, "I have thought a lot, Holiness, and have concluded that you are my last hope. I have been offered help by many people on condition that I talk about my activities for the Church. Many would like to know from me whether I supplied arms and other equipment to certain South American regimes to help them fight our common enemies, and whether I supplied funds to Solidarity or arms and funds to other organizations of Eastern countries. I will not reveal it. I will not submit to, nor do I want to blackmail. I have always chosen the path of coherence and loyalty." He added, "The Vatican has betrayed and abandoned me." After documenting in writing the Holy See's involvement in arming guerrillas, engaging in bloody war, and misappropriating funds, Calvi continued, "Summing up, I ask that all the money that I gave to the projects of serving the political and economic expansion of the Church, that the thousands of millions of dollars that I gave to Solidarity with the express will of the Vatican, and that the sums which I provided to organize the financial centers and political power in 5 South American countries will be returned to me. These sums would amount to $1.75 billion. He concluded the letter by saying that he was seeking serenity and to live in peace. Lapsi lingue. Writing such a letter...
It's kind of sad. I mean, so looking at, I mean, it's not sad because these guys are criminals and they've done awful things and they've helped to fund lots of awful things. Some of these people actually believed that they were doing good. They actually believed that through their actions, they were helping to stave off communism. Some of these people actually believed that they were making this world a better place. So when you are doing these things, you're figuring out how to make money for the Vatican and the international syndicate, and then you're caught, and they are the ones who are having you carry out these actions, and they leave you out to hang. I could see how there could be some kind of a cognitive dissonance, that he thinks that he's still owed these billions of dollars. He didn't do it the correct way. I can kind of see his thought process though, because some of these people actually believe in their cause. Not saying I do, because I don't. Anyway, hey, traveling fools, welcome.
to the Vatican at this point would not result in Calvi's living in peace and only produced increased concern that the banker was becoming unhinged and might attempt to make disclosures that would place the CIA's major covert operation in certain jeopardy. This concern became intensified as Calvi began to pack away documents in his black leather briefcase and to confide in friends, including Prime Minister Andreotti, about the IOR's involvement in money laundering and wholesale fraud. If things go a certain way, he now told Flavio Carboni, his new best friend, the Vatican will have to rent a building in Washington behind the Pentagon. A far cry from St. Peter's. Calvi, when he was making these remarks, was not aware that he was being taped. A few days before his departure from Milan, Calvi again complained to Carboni about the Vatican's refusal to pay its debts. The Vatican, he said, should honor its commitments by selling the wealth controlled by the IOR. It is an enormous patrimony. I estimate it to be $10 billion. To help the Ambrosiano, the IOR could start to sell it, its patrimony, in chunks of $1 billion at a time. Financial doomsday. On Thursday, June 17th, came the coup de grace. Il Sole 24 Ore, Italy's cautious and conservative financial newspaper, published the complete text of the Bank of Italy's letter to Calvi and the Ambrosiano directors. Ambrosiano's stock went into a free fall that resulted in complete collapse. Rossoni and two other directors appeared before Luigi Manini, deputy director of the IOR, and Pellegrino di Strobel, the IOR's chief accountant, and demanded payment on the loans that the Holy See had received for its offshore holdings. They presented the two IOR officials with the letter of patronage that they, along with Archbishop Marcinkus, had signed and sealed. By any banking standard, they insisted, the letter represented a statement of financial obligation. Marcinkus was contacted by telephone. He was accompanying the Pope on a trip to Switzerland. He responded to the demands of the Ambrosiano directors by saying, "We just don't have that kind of money." When warned that his response would be reported to the Bank of Italy, the Archbishop said, "I know. I did all this to help a friend, and look where we are." Rossoni later recalled his reaction. "I became as angry as a buffalo. I told them, Manini and de Strobel, this was a criminal conspiracy. They had committed fraud. The letter of patronage was from the IOR, and it was a guarantee. All that was missing was the signature of Jesus Christ." An emergency meeting was held on the fourth floor of Ambrosiano's headquarters. Panic reigned. Accusations were exchanged. Threats were made. Lawyers were summoned. When a degree of order was restored, Calvi, by unanimous vote, was removed from his position at the bank. The board was dissolved, and the bank was placed in the hands of a commissioner from the Bank of Italy. A new warrant was issued for Calvi's arrest. But the cause of so much turmoil was nowhere to be found. The previous week, Calvi had made his escape from Milan. He was now one of the world's most wanted fugitives. The day after he vanished, Graziella Caroscia, the bank's 55-year-old personal secretary, fell or was hurled from the fifth floor of Ambrosiano. The body landed with a thump on the ramp leading to the bank's underground garage. No arrests were made, and the cause of her death remains undetermined.
Always remember, these people don't pay for what they've done. I call it killeried because we all know how many people are no longer here that are no longer here that had done bad things to themselves with two bullets, right? And all the autopsies came back saying that it was unaliving themselves. And if you think about it, yeah, I don't think it's the case. That very rarely do they pay for their crimes. The fact that they let them hang out to dry like this, they were either mad because they stole money, in my opinion, or they were a liability, and they were hoping to dispose of them. Sorry, guys, I'm on YouTube, so I'm just on Rumble and on X. I don't have to choose my words carefully. I do on this other app because I want to continue to be there and spread the word and the message. Anyway, just think of Killer Reed. If you know, you know.
Telltale documents. On June 11th, while packing his bags, Calvi told his son Nino, "I shall reveal things which, once known, will rock the Vatican. The Pope will have to resign." He stuffed several documents in his black briefcase, which came to light in 1987. One was a note concerning Gelli, which read, "He had convinced me that all political and financial power really depended on him, and that no deal of any importance could go ahead without his consent." The note further stated that Calvi had never made a decision regarding the transfer of funds to the shell companies or weapons for the Latin American dictators and guerrilla armies without conferring with his worshipful master. In a letter, Calvi said that the Vatican needed him to launch an effective politico-religious penetration into secular society by securing control over banking institutions. "The enormous importance of what I have just said induced me to incur debts in foreign currency in order to buy Banco Ambrosiano shares in sufficient quantity to guarantee IOR control over the institution. Working for the Vatican," he added, "meant providing financial assistance to guerrilla units and strong-arm regimes." He wrote, "On more than one occasion I believed that my life was at risk as I rushed from one Latin American country to another."
He believes that. He did believe that he was risking his life. I believe that he really believed that.
Seeking to oppose the ferment of anti-clerical ideologies. "I did my utmost in every sense, even to the point of concerning myself with the supply of warships and other war material to support those capable of contrasting the advance of well-organized communist forces. These efforts," he maintained, "ensured that the Vatican would have an authoritative presence in countries such as Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Paraguay, and Nicaragua." Nearly 4 years after Calvi made his escape from Milan, Bishop Pavol Hnilica of Czechoslovakia paid Flavio Carboni $6 million on behalf of the Vatican for the contents of the black briefcase.
Wow.
On April 1st, 1987, an Italian television news program opened the briefcase before its viewing public with great flourish. The contents had been depleted, but the remaining documents showed that Calvi had been pushed beyond the breaking point and was ready to employ blackmail in order to obtain reparation for the Ambrosianos' losses. 7 years after the program was aired, a Roman court convicted Carboni and Bishop Hnilica of being in receipt of stolen property. Escape to London. Leaving Milan, Calvi made his way to the seaport city of Trieste, where he boarded the Utrango, a launch that had been used by Stibam for drug smuggling, and sailed to the small fishing village of Muggia in Yugoslavia. He was met by Carboni, who drove him to a safe house in Austria, where he received a passport that was genuine in all respects except the name of its bearer. Roberto Calvi had been crudely but simply adjusted to Gian Roberto Calvini. On June 14th, he was flown to London on a plane that had been chartered by Hans Kuntz, who had been a player in Stibam's Guns for Drugs operation. The Austrian businessman had been involved in providing Exocet missiles for use by the Argentine military junta in the Falklands War. The order had been placed by Gelli. The funding had been provided by Ambrosiano through a Vatican dummy corporation in Panama. The brothel and the bridge. In London, Calvi was placed in an 8th-floor flat of a seedy apartment building off King's Row that served as a brothel for a louche clientele. The hiding place had been secured for him by Carboni, who booked lodgings for himself at a luxurious London Hilton. Calvi, growing increasingly morose and frightened, spent the next 2 days in a squalid bedroom stretched out on a cot, staring at the television and making telephone calls. He spoke several times with his daughter Anna in Zurich, telling her of the danger she faced and imploring her to leave Europe for the United States. Something really important is happening, he said, and today or tomorrow all hell is going to break loose. On June 17th, the body of Roberto Calvi was found hanging from an orange noose under Blackfriars Bridge in London, his feet dangling in the muddy waters of the Thames. He was wearing a lightweight grey suit, an expensive Patek Philippe watch remained on his wrist, and $20,000 was stuffed in his wallet. In his pockets were 4 pairs of eyeglasses and his doctored Italian passport. 5 bricks had been stuffed in his trousers. Masonic symbolism. The site of...
Okay, does that look like a setup to you? It sure does to me. Before I get too far ahead, below, guys, I did post a link for Bill M. Elmer. Bill, is that correct? I think I spelled his name wrong. No, that's 2 L's. Sorry, guys, I'm blind. In case you want to know, I'm old. Please follow him on X. I put a link in all 3 chats. Tomorrow, he is covering how to stop the World Health Organization, other known as the WHO, because we do not want them to sign this treaty. We do not. No American citizen wants to allow our government to force things upon us, so we must learn how to do it. I am live streaming it to Rumble tomorrow at 10 a.m. Mountain, 11 Central, 12 Eastern. And I'm doing this because I think this information is important. No, I don't have a huge following everywhere, but I don't care. I'm going to do my part and try to help get the message out. So please follow him. If you guys have access to X and you're subscribed, go follow him and he'll have a link for his X Spaces. And if you have questions, you can request a microphone and you can ask questions. He has a great panel already set up for this tomorrow. So please support this. Everything that we've covered with Gladio, with history, and everything else ties into a one world government. And we do not want that. Our forefathers, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, did not come to this country on a boat to live in this free world and then fight for our country for this to happen. So we need to get educated and we need to find out how we can stop it. All right. We got, hey, LW, welcome. Oh my gosh, everybody, welcome. Okay, let's continue. We've got like 40 seconds. I just wanted to get that in before before everyone left.
Calvi's demise immediately aroused suspicion. Members of various Masonic lodges in Italy wear black robes and address each other as friar. Blackfriars, Fratelli Neri, is an Italian nickname for Freemasons. There is even a Blackfriars Lodge, number 3722, in the list of lodges Masonic, the official register of European Masonry. The fact that masonry in the form of bricks was found on the body was deemed significant, as well as the fact that the Masonic oath stipulated that traitors should be roped down in the proximity of the rising tide. Chapter 19.
I was starting another chapter, but it's a half hour long, and everyone who knows me knows I stay up late because I usually stream late. However, tonight I'm going to be a disciplined person and go to bed early. Let's kind of sum up. If you want to sum up everything really simply, if you cross these people and you dare to expose them, or they think they're going to be exposed and they're going to lose their financial livelihood, you're done for. It happened with Sindona in the previous chapter, and that's how Calvi was exposed in this chapter, was through Sindona. They didn't have his back, and that's how they found out about him. They were able to find over 900, I think it was 962 people who were involved with Operation Gladio. That was between bankers, CIA, global high-up officials that were involved in all of this. And it's all part of that international syndicate that goes clear back to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and a certain group of people being cast out into the land to never, ever, ever have a home of their own. that was their punishment for being greedy and selling gold, whatever else they did. I don't know. And that's just based off of the books. That's based off of my understanding. That is my opinion. That is not in here. But I do know that all this stuff has gone back to all that time. Gladio is all about having left behind soldiers. These people who we talked about in these last 2 chapters were people who helped to raise money, helped to set up banks, and they put the Vatican in an awkward situation, and certain deals fell through. Especially there was one with, was it Iran or Pakistan? Anyway, I digress. The moral of the story is now in the 1980s, some of this stuff is starting to unravel. However, don't forget that they are setting things up in South America. The Dirty War is taking place. I think it was from 74 to 84 was the Dirty War. And that's when they are country by country putting leaders in place that are going to go along with what their agenda is. They go in, they set up industries, they impoverish the citizens, they work for pennies on the dollar, and the money doesn't go to the United States. It goes to these elite people and this international syndicate, and they are not necessarily part of the CIA. They are a shadow government that hides in the shadows of the CIA, and they use them for cover. This is why El Salvador. This is why Venezuela, Pakistan, Africa, the Chinese, the Russians. This is why the world hates America. And I'm not saying it's right. And I don't like, I hate it. I hate that it's this way. However, I'm someone who can empathize. I can't sympathize, but I can empathize with them and I can understand why they feel the way they do. And us as citizens need to, I don't know, I guess I don't fear it. It makes me uneasy. Everyone is so focused on all of these people coming to the United States and they're going to bring these immigrants in and it's going to be civil war. No, guys, they already have Gladio soldiers implanted in the United States. They're already here. They're trained. These people who they're bringing across the border, they're not trained. Gladio soldiers are kind of like a viper or a sniper. They lie in wait. They're trained. They go by instinct and they're patient. And when they are told to act, they act. However, when it does happen, we're going to blame all of these illegal people coming into our country. That's going to be our instinct. And it's not going to be the case. At least that's how I see it. We've been doing this to these people for a long time. These people aren't stupid who are doing what they're doing. And I almost wouldn't be surprised if this whole World Health Organization treaty is not a smoke screen. I'm not saying it is. It's definitely a threat. Tomorrow, though, you're going to come join me and we're going to find out. Before I say goodnight, everyone, I want to thank all of you guys for being here, participating in chat. It does make what I do so much easier. I feel like I'm actually talking to someone who wants to learn what I'm teaching. Out of everything I've covered, I've done fun stuff. I've done garden videos and all that stuff. This to me is the most important. I would say the next important was the fall of the Cabal. And I'm going to figure out, I might just redo the fall of the Cabal, guys, and give it a different name and watch it through Gladio eyes and see things a little bit differently. I think it might add value. I've learned a lot since then. Or figure out how to upload it somewhere because the information, for whatever reason, the way I covered it, got it taken down. Good night, Jay Liebgott. For whatever reason, the way I covered it, got it taken down. I know several people. I've looked on several websites and they're still up. So I don't know what I said. And I need to go back and figure it out. Something I said got it taken down. Because I wasn't hyperbolic. It wasn't copyright. It wasn't anything illegal. Something I said was a threat, and I don't know what it was. Okay, so with that said, tomorrow, guys, at 10 a.m., I'm going to be on Rumble only because I'm not going to stream to X and take away from their platform. I'm going to be an aid in facilitating reaching more people. Okay. However, I do want you guys, this is where I say, if you like what I'm doing, I do spend time on this. You can donate to me at Talk with Sally on, let's go pull up my banner here real quick. You can donate directly to me on Venmo or Cash App. I don't have PayPal because for whatever reason they tried to create a business account without telling me and change my profile pic and change my name. Anyway, it was a big, huge red flag. So I had to delete it, and I found out luckily within 2 days. So I have Cash App, I have Venmo. They are Talk with Sally, and there is a picture so you know that it is me. Second line item of business, and I'm not going to go super long into this, and I'm going to do this until my friend Julian gets his kidney because I got to do what I can do. Not financially set. If I had more, I would do more. So all I can do is spread the word. He needs a kidney. Both of his kidneys are a bunch of freeloaders, which means they don't work at all. Every single night, he does 10 hours of dialysis, which means he gets to go to work, hurry up and make something to eat, take his dog for a short walk, and then plug in dialysis for 10 hours. So he works 40 hours a week. He's not trying to get rich. He's only asking for $25,000, and it's only to help offset medical bills. If you can donate, that would be very, very much appreciated. And if you can't, because we have a Biden economy, share it with someone who might be able to. $1, $2, every little bit helps. And with our last thing, guys, remember to follow Bill Elmer on, well, wrong button, on X. And I made a banner today on X. If you guys follow me there, you can follow him to join his X Spaces live and ask questions, or you can join me on Rumble. Both are going to be great places to do so. I would wish we could figure out how to do something like that and reach a broader audience with questions on other platforms. The capability is not there yet. Let me hurry and put that up real quick. Okay, there we go. So it's Bill Elmer on X. He's got a great panel. I don't personally know all the people on there. He's professional. He works directly with people in government, trying to figure out how we can stop this World Health Organization treaty from going into law. I do know that because it is a treaty, it does have to be passed by the Senate. I don't know what Joe Biden could do. I don't know at this point. That guy scares me. The executive orders he does, the things he's done just scare me. So let's figure out how we as individuals can prevent this from happening. I hope you guys learned a lot tonight. My goal is to teach you without fear porn. We know this information. How can it help you? For me, if you're a religious person and you believe in a higher power and you believe in the Bible and you believe in other scriptures, you turn to that. You try to raise strong, healthy kids. You learn how to garden without all the chemicals and all the BS. You learn how to can food. You, instead of spending money on a brand new car, buy extra jars, because I guarantee come September, when it's canning season, they're going to be gone. I don't know that for sure. I know that during the 2020 debacle, I couldn't get jars to save my life to can food. So plan ahead. Plan. Don't think, oh, these people are crazy. Maybe we're all crazy. And before the 2020 thing became a public thing, I was prepared. I had I had 25 years worth of heirloom seeds. As long as I didn't open the container, they were good to go for 25 years. Okay. Heirloom seeds, which means there's no GMO. I had toilet paper. I probably had at least six months to a year of food before everything happened. And my guy thought I was nuts. He thought I was nuts. And I tried to get him to do stuff with his stock, but I got nervous. I'm like, gosh, that sounds kind of crazy. And I wish I would have been more confident in my knowledge and said, hey, I think this is going to happen. Worst case, we don't lose in the stock market, right? So plan for the worst case scenario. If it doesn't happen, you're not out anything. Just keep making real friends and making fun of dumb people. The cream always rises to the top. I don't like to make fun of people, and I made a post on X the other day. I think it might have been today. They're like, you could have said this or you could have said that. And it's like disparaging people. Yeah, I might do it in my head. I'm not going to do it. It doesn't do any good. It makes you feel good in the moment because you know that sometimes the things they say are so out there. You have to teach people in a way that when they change their mind, they're going to be embraced. Yes, laugh at the haters. I don't even laugh at I just ignore. I honestly ignore. I don't even give it a response. It's not worth my energy. There's so many important things going on in the world. I make fun of people. I'm kind of an asshole. I don't know. I think I grew up being the ugly duckling, and I grew up being really poor. I got made fun of a lot, and I didn't like the way it made me feel. Therefore, I don't do it to others. I don't do it because it doesn't make me feel good. And I know that some people feel good doing that. I don't. So everyone gets to do their own thing. I don't feel good doing that. So you get to do your own thing. However, if you want people to change their minds, you have to show them grace. And when they change their mind, allow them to do it without feeling guilty or being shamed. What's the point? So did I like get, oh, I got thick skin from it, but I'm still a girl. I mean, men are different. Guys can banter different than girls can. It's just the way it is. I much prefer to banter with men because I can make fun of them. And I know they're not going to go home crying like a little sissy. We can just laugh about it. It's the ones who take it personal that makes it hard. Is because I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, and you took it personal, and now I have to feel bad because you felt bad, and now I'm like, "No, okay. No, done playing that game." Anyway, everyone, you guys are amazing. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. For those who are new to my channel, a lot of this stuff we've learned together in real time. We pick a topic and we go with it. For whatever reason, we found Gladio and we're riding the wave right now. So I am ending this stream in 3, 2,